with the amazing Gila, and here comes Ani. So give me a sec. Oops. Ani, your camera's not on. Okay, we'll wait for her to come back. So, yeah, while we're doing that, is there anything you want to say to start with? It looks like she's having a little difficulty.
So I got a message on my Telegram channel from this girl Esther that I know. She lives there. She said, "I live in Israel. The protests seem too organized to be organic." Hi, Ani.
Sure.
Good morning.
At least partly organized.
She says she feels they are left wing, and this is to destabilize the right wing government. So that's her take.
Yeah, I'm sure that. I mean, that's obviously true. Like a lot of the. Okay, first of all, before we started, I just want to share with whoever's listening. I was just saying to you that I live up in the north in Sfat, which is very remote from a lot of the rest of Israel. And I did just read that it's an ancient Ir Miklat. It's a city of refuge. And it's just, I mean, it should stay like this. It should stay like this and better, but it's very quiet. Like you wouldn't know anything's happening from here at all. But I do hear from one of my students yesterday was telling us that she was up till like the protests outside of her window in Tel Aviv and Herzliya were like massive. And my daughter, who came from through Jerusalem, said that she told me that all kinds of things were closed down. Then I got an email from somebody whose list I'm on, for sure it's been left wing. The pictures from Tel Aviv were like fists, like raised fists, like with almost exactly carbon copy of the BLM posters. And I've seen photocopies or WhatsApp, whatever, shared posters offering people, I forget the amount, 250 shekel or something for coming to demonstrations. But some of the people are really passionate. And I've heard that it's even on the left, like, okay, let me just finish this and then I'll say one more thing, then we can open it up. So I have to ground myself a little bit here. So I was just telling Gila that I got an email from somebody who's very much a fighter for the right wing. Nadia Matar, who's from Women in Green, used to be very much more prominent years ago, but I just glanced at it, and the first line of the email was, "Thank God there were hundreds of thousands of protesters from the right." And then there were pictures, all I saw was pictures of like those pictures that we're seeing from France and other places, like, from a drone or whatever. And you see like nothing but people's heads, like from like as far as you can go in every direction. So I don't know if now it's left and right. I don't know what's happening. I know that it's very, very interesting that, I mean, I'll open it to you guys, but it's very interesting that there's division in Israel because we learned that the second temple was destroyed because of baseless hatred, and that the third temple will be rebuilt through baseless, unconditional love. I did see a video of some people from Bnei Brak, which is a religious, more or less religious city, going out into one of the demonstrations with looked like pizza and water bottles and hugging everybody.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, some people walked away and some people were hugging them back. And, if that's what happens, that's really good, because our connection, with one of the qualities of Am Yisrael, which is a potential quality of every human, but because we're an Am, we're like a tribe, where Am means a people. So I actually, interestingly, fascinatingly, I heard one time this person cry on, who's channeled by somebody named, I forgot his first name, Lee Carroll or something, whatever. I don't know if any of this is legit or not, but it was really interesting.
Oh my God. I used to read, I read his books in college when I first had my spiritual awakening. Yeah.
So he said this thing that sometimes I hear people say things that are true and they would have no way to know.
Yeah.
According to their own intellect. So then it makes me think, so he said that the Jewish souls are old souls, and they reincarnate in groups and tend to reincarnate in the same groups for many, many, many incarnations, and therefore their mission is more difficult but more tight. I also heard one time from a personal friend who a lot of Jews came back to Torah through India, through gurus and whatever. Maybe you guys know some of those stories. So this person is now, she's a shlucha. She teaches, she's in California. She an emissary of the Rebbe, and she, works with a lot of people, including celebrities. But she told me personally years and years ago that she went to a famous guru in India, and he told her that she asked him what her like path was, like people do a lot with gurus, and he said, and this also made me think. He said, "You're Jewish. You need to follow your Jewish path. It's the hardest and it's the highest." Isn't that interesting? So anyway, the point being that back to the division, it's odd that there's division, and if out of the division could come more unconditional love, that would be an extremely powerful thing for the whole world. Yes, it's being fomented for sure by the left. This is what I want to say. Both parties, like from where I'm sitting, the Supreme Court is mostly corrupt. They're self-appointed. They don't even have no oversight. They can turn down any law. If Knesset votes for something, the Supreme Court says no, it's no. There was one time recently that I remember that they did something great that was useful. That's not usually the case, but they made it illegal for the government to require Israeli citizens to be vaccinated to fly into the country. So that was one good thing, but most of it, the government is very corrupt and has lied over and over and made, whatever. So the fact also that they're fighting it out, that there's like when there's upheaval in the government of Israel, it's not always a bad thing. Any government, it's not always a bad thing, even though chaos could be intrinsically problematic, but it's sometimes, I don't know what's going to come out of it. And maybe our consciousness will also influence how something good has to come out of it, because we're in a process where everything has to come out in a good way ultimately. But I don't know what we can do to influence it. And I do want to I was telling Gila, I do want to have a guest or two very soon who know more about the ins and outs of what's actually going on here politically, because I know people want to know and I want to know. I don't even know. I'm sitting here in Israel and I'm like, what's happening? Is something really happening? The first couple of weeks I was asking my kids, is there anything actually happening, or they're making it up? But anyway.
Well, when you live in 5D, when you've elevated yourself out of the chaos and fear, I think you create your own reality. I think that's, you're sitting in your own beautiful bubble.
Well, that's true too, but it's also where I am located. Like, I'm not hearing anybody. Other people are hearing things from their windows, or it's blocking traffic, or they shut down the outgoing flights. I heard yesterday. I don't know. It's pretty weird.
I heard that also. Go
ahead.
I had such a ripple moment when you said that, maybe what we're doing can affect the collective. So yesterday I had the dreaded meeting with my accountant, because it's that time of year. And without getting into the specifics, I liberated myself. I'm filing on my own. Me and my husband are going to do our own returns because we're on different pages, and that alone was a sovereign move. And the way I spoke to my accountant, it was like, we're doing the X, Y, and Z. Instead of him every other year, he told me we're doing X, Y, and Z. I said, listen, we're doing X, Y, and Z this year. And he totally changed. He's like, sure, let's have a meeting next week. We'll make that happen. And I felt the ripples. I felt the butterfly effect. Like, I just felt it was amazing. And I have to ask you guys a question. Like, even, for me, what's so fulfilling is like afterwards, the gratitude I feel. I could just like expand it and live in that space of gratitude for hours and days and go back in it. And when I tell other people, it kind of loses something. Do you guys have that experience? When I keep it private between me and my friends,
it's known. It's the Torah says that, like, you're because when your experience is just coming in like a light, and you feel it in such big ways in your body, and you can feel the potential, and it's not in words yet. When you give it over in words, the words fall flat, and then it's like, what was that thing that I felt? Was that even real?
Yeah.
Also, if you're sharing with people, when you're sharing with like your intimates who are on the same level, they can feel what you're feeling. They can feel what's inside of your words. And so they're like in that space with you. But if words are kind of like not enough, and you're sharing with people who like can only hear the words and not feel what's inside the words, then it totally can be like, oh, it could get a little deflated, because it's like that energy that was in the words, kind of leaks to other places, essentially.
Right. It gets weakened. So no, that's why it feels so good to tell you guys, because I feel heard.
It's huge. It's really
sovereignty.
It's really amazing. It's amazing that this is, obviously this is what you guys are talking about, because I woke up this morning with this thought and sense in my head that like the most powerful thing that we can do to change the collective is literally just what we're doing in our day-to-day lives, the choices that we're making and the place that we're living from in our day-to-day lives. Like obviously we need to come onto platforms and spread the frequencies and the ideas, but the most powerful thing that we're doing is living our life moment to moment, and what level and frequency and energy are we generating.
So
100%.
true. So true. Which brings me to another thought. Like I'm thinking, when I I haven't had time to process anything. I've been in such a busy, like creating space for the last 2 weeks, but seeing these pictures that this Nadia Matar sent out of the supposedly, allegedly hundreds of thousands of right-wing protesters from above, it just made me think, it made me wonder, like, all these pictures we're seeing for a long time from different places in the world, like different influencers will post some picture of France or Turkey or Australia or Germany, and you see all these people in the street and you're like, wow, it's a total revolution. It's for the good. And I'm just thinking that I'm wondering what people make of this. Like, first of all, so much of it is artificially catalyzed and supported. But second of all, anybody could take a picture and make any story, like we see the media doing all the time. So I wonder, it's almost like whoever can grab the story. I used to say that many years ago, I used to say a lot that the world's like a runaway bus, and whoever grabs the wheel is going to get to take it where they want it to go. But and I think that's true, but I think that's the wheel has been long ago taken by the wrong side. And so I think it would be good for us to be super conscious about what is the story that we want to put out into the world. And what is that story? And I think even God is influenced by that. In fact, very, very, I know there are many sources like that think good, it will be good, that the face you show to heaven is the face heaven shows to you, that Machshava Moelis thought actually has an effect, that God is your shadow, you move God. So I think that the narration, like I think are consciously interpreting things. It's like what you're saying about 5D, Gila, but I'm thinking even in a more verbal and more out projected way. Like, what is the story? Like the Rebbe said so many years ago, open your eyes and see redemption, see Geula. And that doesn't just mean notice it. It means, he said, publicize the miracles, publicize that Mashiach is coming right now. This was already back in 1991, 1992. And I'm pretty sure that if everything at the end of the day is divine providence, but I'm pretty sure if it had been done the way he wanted it done, we wouldn't be here now. We would already be way further progressed without nearly as much, trouble as we've had. We might have skipped the last 3 years, for example. But that's like my husband always says, when's the best time to plant a tree? 30 years ago. When's the second best time? Now. So, yes. So what can we do about that?
I treasure the last 3 years. They were rough going through them, but in hindsight, it was the Great Awakening. It's not the same. But that's why I say to people who say, we're in Yemos HaMashiach. I say this to almost everybody I meet every day, just to get their reaction. And
in Hebrew? You always say it in Hebrew?
Well, most of my patients are Jewish in the 5 towns there. So I'm like, as I'm like working, I'm like, we're in the Yemos HaMashiach.
They can't answer you.
And most people agree. I would say 60% say, I know. And then the other people, the classic answer is, all the other generations thought the same thing. And I hate when I hear that, because we have such a knowing right now that it's not the same. These past 3 years are unprecedented. That was the hashtag line of the WEF. We're in unprecedented times.
Oh, really? I have to stop using that phrase then?
I know we could take it for ourselves. And we're in, we're all in this together. All these slogans, we can take it for the light. So I'm so grateful for the past 3 years in hindsight that eyes are open. And even if in Israel, it's still left versus right, which is, in itself, people will be like, wait a second, why are we still fighting with each other? Let's look up instead of sideways.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying, because there was so much, there's been so much pain and suffering, which I would have preferred to have people wake up without that. But, looking forward, I prefer to have people wake up now without any more of that.
Amen.
And
Amen.
yeah, I had some thought which just escaped my mind based on what you were saying.
The Holocaust. That I just feel bad for the people in that generation who thought it was imminent then.
Oh, no, I know what I was going to say. You said it's about 60 or 65% of people agree with you. Here in Israel, I was like, already years ago, I was quite pleasantly just surprised when I was looking for speakers to interview for one of my summits. Everybody who was recommended, the first question I asked them is, do you believe we're in the time of Mashiach? And they're like, of course. Like, well, who doesn't? So I think it's much more somehow up close and personal here, like even people in the street. The most objection you'll get to a statement like that I've seen, is somebody will say, halavai, Mashiach should, yeah, hopefully, but I haven't heard nobody say, right, sure, didn't they always say that before? It's very alive and dynamic here.
It's different. It's different. I just want to say it's different from past generations also because we had the leader of the generation, we had the Mashiach figure tell us in no uncertain terms that we have reached that space also. So it's not just speculation. We can stand on the das, on the consciousness, on the proclamation of the Rebbe that we are objectively in that phase with all of the reality changes that implies.
Right.
But he had to leave us. Do you think he had to leave us, Ani, in order for us to claim our geula?
Yes, 100%. That's a whole other Farbrengen, but 100%, yes, 100%.
Why another Farbrengen? Why don't you say something?
We could talk about it now.
Gila
there's no leaving us.
Gila's like, let's
we had no topic. Well, there's no leaving us. There's just a physical concealment so that we can own our power, because the whole point of Geula is every single one of us stepping into our power.
So good.
And the big thing that the Chabad Rebbeim said literally from the start is, this is your work to do. Don't think I'm doing it for you. So if we start putting too much on the Rebbe, they're like, no, I told you this is about you. And there's also, I cannot remember the exact source or the exact teaching, but I know that what I saw was essentially that Yaakov Avinu, which say Yaakov Lomes, that he never really died. It was just what had to appear to us on the lower consciousness. This death was, he had to conceal his light because otherwise it would have overwhelmed his sons, the tribes. And so there had to be that concealment in order for them to claim their God-given divine path as well. Because otherwise they would have just stayed subsumed in the light and never differentiated into what God made them for. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
And it feels good. What I went through yesterday with my accountant was real geula, personal geula. I burned up the last of my chains to the matrix. And I had wording. I feel like I channeled you, Ani, because wording came to me that sounded like you would say it.
Did you drop an F-bomb?
A few, many, but in a good way. Yeah, I always think of you when I curse, Ani. So in the best possible way. I thought the people are like, how do you know Geula is here? I'm like, we have the Geula framework. Isn't that something you would say?
Yes, I'm really gratified. I'm very gratified that it's come into the vernacular.
Yeah, isn't that something you would say? The technology is here, the global, everyone on the same page. The
Geula infrastructure, it's here.
Infrastructure is even better. Damn. The global infrastructure, the Geula infrastructure is here. We have to populate it. We just have to populate it.
Exactly.
I like that. I like that. I like that phrase. Yeah, we have to populate it. And you guys can help, bring your friends, talk to people about this. It's a ripple effect. We're all like homeopathic drops in the system. Somebody's asking, I just see the name C. Proust. I don't know what your actual name is, but the phase could be 1,000 to 2,000 years though, question mark. If it's an ascending age, how do you know how long? We're all going to say no to that, but who wants to jump in?
Well, the first thing I'll just say is that time, we exist above time. Time is a movement of energy. So the more we are stepping into our sovereignty, the more we're identifying with our core, which is completely beyond time and space. So then time becomes a tool that moves according to our consciousness. So if we want to stay in our unconscious human state, we're going to be dragged along by time. But the more we work to tap into our core, that spark of Mashiach within us, to live from our Geula vision, to connect with God through deeper understanding and practice of Torah and mitzvahs, that we rise above time and space, and time becomes our tool instead of something that we're unconsciously being dragged along by.
Beautiful.
That is true. And in a much more basic level, how many hundreds or thousands of years do you think that the world has in it to stay in a stable state? Like we are already.
I don't think we're getting to 2024, meaning
no, right, exactly. That's the point.
Well, the Rebbe,
sorry.
The Rebbe also literally says that the Geula process started with Yetzias Mitzrayim, so we've already been in it for those thousands of years. He literally says that was the Geula was literally coming out of Mitzrayim.
Yeah, but here's another thing. The Rebbe said, and also the Vilna Gaon apparently in his book Kol HaTorah gave a date for the approximate beginning of the redemption of what's called Yemos HaMashiach, the days, which is the messianic process. So there's the pre-messianic process, then there's the post-messianic process.
The revealed one, yeah.
Yeah, which is redemption is, that's the one that we talk about, heaven on earth and no more suffering and no more hunger and not even death, no war, all those prophecies that of Isaiah and so many others. But then you have that's like gestation and birth, but then in between you have the birth canal. That's the birth process, and that's like Yemos HaMashiach. So the Rebbe said in 1991, also the Vilna Gaon said similar, that Yemos HaMashiach, we are now in Yemos HaMashiach literally. And he said it more than once, which means to me, after much study and contemplation, to me it's very clear that means at this point it's consciousness dependent to a large degree. Like you have to go through a certain number of contractions and a certain journey, but like.
Well, here's what I want to say. The Rebbe gave a sikha. I think it was in 1988, and it was After until Pesach, the last day of Pesach, and it was about the birth process. And the Rebbe brings up the concept of C-section, and a C-section birth being above Seder Hishtalshalis, Rosh Kol Hishtalshalis, and that it's basically like Mashiach just coming through the wall of Gullus, just totally breaking down the wall of Gullus. And so I've always had in mind, because all of my kids were C-section births, and so this sikha really spoke to me. This talk of the Rebbe really spoke to me about what the spiritual source of C-section birth. And the Rebbe, so I believe all right, so let's get the epidural and go have a quick C-section and not have to go through the excruciating labor and everything. So I kind of hold that construct in my mind, because thank God my C-sections were very, very geuladik, and I had easy recovery. And I was like, let's do this thing.
That's a tikkun for the sin of Eve. That's a rectification, because she was given, the punishment of difficult labor. So let's let the geula be the exact opposite. I love that. Yeah,
and the Rebbe, the sikha is so good.
I'd love to learn it with you. Yeah, I think though that we're past. I think that at a certain point, I think we're not even in the middle of the birth canal, but we're way down into it.
Yeah, no, we're born. We're born already and just acclimating to the world.
Or we're crowning, and this is literally crowning, and this is where if anybody has given birth or knows the birth process, which most people do, so the attitude, the way that the mother aligns, the calmness, the looking at the intention rather than resisting, flowing with it, all those things will accelerate and make the birth much smoother and even very joyful. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. The level of consciousness as geula comes in, we don't have to be afraid of it. Like that mother, the calm birth that you had is you could either be seized in fear and miss the whole thing. That's the sad thing, when I think there's so many people so afraid that they're missing it. This is the greatest time to be alive. And just to hold that consciousness of joy and as it comes in. And I started saying, when I'm benching now, I don't know if I'm allowed to be doing this, but I say Harachaman, Huzachinu, Limos HaMashiach, not Yizakenu, because it's happening.
Wow.
Yeah. He made me merit God. Harachaman, it's a name for God, Huzachinu. He made me worthy of Harachaman Yizakenu. Wow. He will make me worthy.
Oh wow, that's really beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, stuff too.
Yeah.
Everybody some people take liberties there.
I took that liberty. I hope I shouldn't.
I completely relate to that. So somebody said that. So the Rebbe said he didn't know why Mashiach hasn't come by now, and that was in the 90s. So yeah, that was in the very early 90s. And actually, the Rebbe said it to me once, and I think he said it once in a sikha. I don't know if he said it more than that. He said it once when I was in front of him by dollars at a after getting up from Shiva from the baby that I had lost and asking like why Mashiach isn't here yet. And he said, I already said I don't know. But I don't believe it. And I didn't believe it then. I saw something come over the Rebbe's eyes and like a curtain, like there's a very deep principle here. And it's related to what you asked, Gila, like, did the Rebbe have to leave? Gimel Thomas have to happen. There's something about a withdrawal, like even if you imagine when the parent wants to make space for a child to decide something for himself and the child's used to depending upon the parent. So the parent will say, I don't know what, you tell me.
But that phrase, I don't know, is in itself an instruction. It's not a normal person going, I don't know. Like it's a Rebbe saying it. It's going to be a hint to some level of reality or consciousness or what we actually have to do.
It's like that's the same. I've given it
right,
over.
But that's why so many people point out that the Rebbe said he doesn't know why Mashiach isn't here, so we don't know. And that's like, and I say it in that mocking voice because the klipas come in and keep people, and I experienced this myself. It's a state of existential horror for years of like, God is just playing with us and I have no power. And when you believe that, you become prime food for all the dark forces to come in and just like suck your life force out. So to understand that like the klipas from whatever direction they're coming from want us to believe, we just can't know. You just have to get schlepped along with a smile on your face. You can't know. And it keeps you out of your power, and it has horrific consequences for mental, emotional, spiritual health. And that's why I rail so hard against that, because I myself experienced the destruction that mentality brings. And I know countless people that I've worked with in a healing and coaching and just as friends capacity who absorbed that message also unconsciously. And it wreaks horrific havoc on people in their lives to be in that stream.
Interesting. I mean, I also am pretty sure that the Rebbe, part of it is the Rebbe is not going to give reasons for why Mashiach can't come, because his insistence is, like you said, now. There's nothing to wait for. No,
right.
So both of those things. So I think the more we can see ourselves, this is consciousness dependent. It exists already. It's already done, but it hasn't been revealed, like you've been saying. So how do we reveal it? How do we reveal it? Through the way that we see things, the way we look at the news, current events, how much we empower ourselves in our own sovereignty.
Even more so making choices from what we see. That's the biggest thing, is that when we're able to look at current events and look at the things in our lives and plug into our own Geula vision for ourselves. What does my life look and feel like in a redeemed state? But more than having the vision is then you have to actually start to make choices in your thought, speech, and action from that vision. No matter how much fear or resistance comes up, or like in the moment of making the choice or saying the thing or making that new decision, you feel like, oh my God, what if this isn't real and I'm crazy? You make the choice anyway, and you establish that frequency.
You want to give an example in case people have a question?
Yeah, I mean, I think for example, like what Gila just said, the new way she approached her accountant is an incredible, because she could have gone in there and been like, maybe I'm crazy and none of this stuff is real, and just let him do his thing. And like, even for me, like because it starts with our tiny choices of becoming more conscious and intentional. So the example that I brought for like the past few years is like, my Geula coffee mugs, when I had to get new coffee mugs, and I was like, which coffee mugs would literally just bring me the most joy and pleasure? Like, what are my Geula coffee mugs? Like, start with that if you can't make bigger infrastructure changes yet. And making that choice. Or also for me in a big way, when I bought my horse, which was and continues to be a massive investment of finances and time. Like, okay, do I really believe that Geula is here? And do I really believe that this is part of my tachlis and part of my Geula vision? Am I really willing to invest all the time and money in it? Yes. And it's brought abundant godly revelations.
Yeah. So it's making choices based on the future and present.
Based on what we know. Yeah. Into the present. Yeah.
And making our own reality, creating our own, living into our own reality. And speaking for myself, it's tremendously, so much easier, orders of magnitude, when you're with other people who are doing it too, and that's how movement starts.
Yeah.
And I think this has to be a movement. #Souls United. Debbie Debbie asks, is it that each of us individuals are supposed to be partners to bring the existence of Mashiach times? I think we're saying the existence of Mashiach times is already underway. Mashiach times, we're in Mashiach times.
And we have to align with that consciously. Yeah,
and
that's our
partners in
job.
revealing it in our lives and the world, making it,
Yes.
revealing this in the 3D, so that the 3D changes. That's the, I think, the ultimate goal. That's the Dir B'Tachtonim, the dwelling place that God wants in the physical world. So like when you read the news, you guys, when you're reading the news, if you read the news or if you hear anything besides Israel, what are the things that are pulling on you, exciting you, concerning you, making you think, making you want to go deeper? Like, what's the update on
Well, the American dollar is about to be dead, and that makes me really happy. The US dollar is about to die, and we're going to live through that. Oh my gosh, my son told me when he was in yeshiva, he learned, one of his rabbeim told him that, I don't know which tzaddik this was, which holy man this was, but he kept a suitcase of a currency that went out just to remind himself how do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever heard
Yes,
that?
my husband, I don't know if my husband's listening, probably not, but he, when I was interviewing Rafi a couple days ago, my husband came into the room with this piece of fiat money.
Zim.
It was $100 trillion bill, $100 trillion bill.
Well, you should keep that, girl, because it's about to.
No, he has it. I got it. And also he showed me afterwards 2 shekel bills, paper. One of them said 10 shekel. One of them said 10,000 shekel. And then the one year later said 10 shekel. That they just changed the worth of the money so that it stopped inflating and just or divided it by whatever, 1,000. Yeah.
I think Geula is gonna, I always say this, we're gonna ride on the money, people, because once that changes, all the bets are off. Once money has no value anymore and the world reserve current, it's gonna be the Wild West. It's gonna be amazing times.
Rafi was saying that the whole entire world, including BRICS, I'm not sure if this is true, but this is what he said, that because the only actual agreed upon medium of exchange that's currently in use in countries is the dollar, the petrodollar. So if the dollar falls, everybody falls, including the BRICS nations. I'm not sure if that's true because I think they're collecting gold, but what do you think?
Okay,
Gila?
so I follow the, Emily Tang's channel, QSI, Quantum Stellar Initiative, and I'm pretty sure that either the ruble is going to become the standard or the USTN, the United States Treasury note, which is gold backed. We're going to go from the dollar,
that's what Trump's pushing, the note, the US note.
Yeah, we're going to switch currencies, but it's not before a time when 99% of the world thinks that we're lost forever, that they lost everything. And that to me is going to be the great wake up call, is when, the banks go under and people have to stop their routines. The problem is we have to get people out of their routines. The daily, I think that's going to be when other things were going on, everyone's just so drawn to, let's get back to life. Let's get back to the 3D way of life.
Normal. Let's get back to normal.
I think the great disruptor is going to be, that, and I don't think there'll be any coming back. And once we shift over to a new financial system, it's supposed to read your consciousness. It's going to be digital, and it's supposed to be, you're going to be paid in accordance with your level of not paid, but you're going to have abundance in accordance with the level of goodness and kindness that you have in your heart. Imagine a system like that.
I hope that's not the system, unless it's God run only, because otherwise it's just
it's
social credit.
No, it's not that. Where it's a gift from. This is my belief. No, I'm not a reflection on everybody on the panel, but I believe that it's a gift from it's an extraterrestrial gift and from higher dimensionality, that the blockchain is a way to decentralize. Once people it's the same concept of Mashiach. We have to own our own finances. We don't have to go to the bank and get permission. Can I get my money out today?
That's for sure. Sovereignty and finances.
Yeah, it's decentral. It's a consciousness shift to decentralization from following leaders to become. It's all about Mashiach. To me, it's all about this move to sovereign individual sovereignty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that's got a huge amount of
that's also a reflection. That's also literally a reflection of what the Rebbe says about about abundance, that literally like that our spiritual, that our who we really are, like our essence is so infinitely, essentially spiritually abundant that that should be reflected literally in our bank accounts, he says. So that's so immediately what I picked up on what you were saying is like, wow, that's really how the Rebbe describes the way we should all be totally physically wealthy, is because it's a total manifestation. And the Rebbe says gold. He talks about how like each of us is gold in our essence. And that so our bank account should like reflect that essentially. And if it's and he says that it's already there.
I
And
was
if
gonna
it's
say that.
not, it's just because we haven't revealed it yet.
Right.
Through our,
There's a
through
blockage.
our avoda, through our work with ourselves.
But guys, there's a whole Telegram channel that's talking about what the Rebbe said, meaning it's coming into physical existence. There's like 40,000 people on this chat, 50,000 now, who
Can you
are
send
talking about money in quantum terms.
What is the Telegram channel? Can you post the link here?
It's Quantum Stellar Initiative.
That-
I joined up a year ago. This Pesach was it called to me in the highest way, this conversation, because I understood in my soul that money is how we liberate ourselves. We're in a debt prison. That's how they keep us dumbed down and afraid. Think about it. Every decision you make every day revolves around money, and no one even talks about it.
I haven't thought about it in this way as much as you have, but I'm thinking now about the idea that there used to be such an incredible, the Torah tells us there used to be an incredible lust for idol worship that was impossible to overcome for so many people. And I can understand it because what is idol worship? It's some way of manipulating the laws of nature so that you're not totally vulnerable and helpless.
It's outsourcing your sovereignty.
Yeah. So apparently the sages prayed and changed that lust to a lust for money. And I heard that somebody told me that the Alter Rebbe said talked about that and said that he was not sure that it was a good exchange. So it's also, money is also an amplifier. So if money is
right.
out of sovereignty, if money is able to be manipulated and, represented by other things, and then, if we can make up money like the banks do, print it and then change it for actual goods, then you can accumulate power that doesn't belong to you. And then you're manipulating not only nature, but everybody else. So yeah, that's the anti-sovereignty. So I'm just thinking through what you're saying about money.
I heard this great thought I read this a while ago, Reb Eli Melech Biederman, right? He said, what is Avodah Zarah? Avodah Zarah, this was, he said in reference to, I think, Avodas Molech, that's become current news again, satanic worship and,
child.
Whatever, all that evil stuff that's surfacing, that he said that what is at the heart of it, what you're going to love this, Ani, is the feeling of no self-worth. Because if you hate yourself and you don't think you're worthy of connecting straight to God, he said they would do the most disgusting things they would defecate in front of the idol. And we know that they do the most self-degrading. So the real geula work is to love yourself and think yourself worthy of a direct connection. Think yourself worthy of coming face to face with the Melech Malchei Melachim, that he loves you so much that he wants your face with his face. David HaMelech says it right in Tehillim, like, I always forget the Hebrew, but it's like, what is my face seeking? Your face. So once we all can fall in love with Hashem, just fall in love with him and know that he's waiting there. He's already in love with you. And then, that to me, alongside financial liberation, is self-worth. You'll be worthy of all the abundance in the world. You're worthy. We're worthy. We're worthy. We're worthy.
Yeah, I like to go even beyond. The word worthy implies that maybe you could be not worthy, but you're intrinsically, it's who we are.
It's what you are, 100%. Yeah, it's just revealing. And this is what the Rebbe speaks about all the time, is it's just reveal what you are. Just get away all the stuff that's covering up what you are and just be that. Just
beyond the story. We don't even know what that is, but we know what it's not.
Yeah, and that's the start. To know what it's not is the start. Yeah.
Very big start.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this? Do you think that the financial, I was going to ask Gila, but she ran out. They talk about, in the Patriot channels, they talk about a scare event being necessary, as I'm sure you're aware. Do you think do you have any thoughts on what, not that we know, but do you think it could be like a crash, a financial crash?
It could be, but you know what I say about all of these scare things. You
But
know
they
what I say about these things. You know what I say. But
But-
I don't believe any of these things
they
are
are-
necessary.
Yeah.
I just don't like, because it's like, why? We can be in Geula already. We don't need the disruptions. To me, I feel like a scare events would just be drains of energy when we could be face to face proactively creating already.
Yes, Ani, but
I know it could be necessary, but I'm telling you.
No, I don't want it to be
If it-
necessary. No, that's not what I'm not arguing with you. I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
What 30 years ago, 32 years ago, the Rebbe said, it's up to us. It can happen any moment. That's obviously when we entered into the consciousness dependent phase of creation, where now
Right.
it's, now it could happen anytime, could happen in a minute, could happen in several hours. You could need a C-section, whatever it is, So what is holding everything back? I don't know. Historically, I guess there was a normalcy bias among, those Jews
I don't think anything's being held back. I think everything is moving forward insanely. The amount of people awakening, even even in the religious world, the past few years, the people who have just shifted into Geula consciousness and awakened and are creating abundance and are living Geula for themselves. I think nothing's being held back. We're just moving towards some of the greater infrastructure shifts. But it's already been happening. I'm sure behind the scenes, these things are already here. So for me, I don't think anything's being held back. I think we've been speeding toward it more and more. And yet we're not over the finish line yet, for sure.
Why not?
But the Rebbe said, because the Rebbe said, if a few people will just go far enough, then they'll just tip it for the entire world. That's what all of us who are striving so deeply in consciousness and to get to these next levels and the deeper healing, we're doing it. We're the few, meaning, thank God, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and hopefully millions by now, who are doing it, striving deeper. I believe we've reached the critical mass already, and it's flooding in now, and we're seeing that. So the more we show up and we keep moving forward, we're hitting higher frequencies, and that's what ultimately flips everything over in a way that everybody's, eyes of flesh can see, as the Rebbe says.
In other words, it doesn't have to be bad to wake people up. It could be amazing.
Exactly. Well, it's going to be bad for people. It'll be different realities perceived by different, wherever that person is holding when this event does come in. That's what they're going to perceive. That's the multidimensionality of it.
It does say some people will see Mashiach as an amazing surprise, coming out of nowhere, the biggest gift, and others it will be like a scorpion.
Yeah. It depends on what your level of that's how spiritual reality works. That's how the afterlife works. We all essentially go to the same place, but based on the frequencies that you've engaged in through your choices in this world, that's how you're going to experience it. So we're all experiencing the same revelation, but what position have you put yourself in relative to that revelation? It's either going to, God forbid.
I think we come here, Ani. We come here for the opportunity to elevate our frequency.
That's what Chassidus says. Yes.
Yes.
This is the only. Yeah. This is the only world. This is the only realm where you have the opportunity to elevate your frequency.
Right.
Yes.
That's the word. Is to get in a good mood. The whole work of life is to get yourself in a good mood. How hard is that? It's
work.
It's work. And
to keep the channels open.
There's two things I want to say. That I heard that the final battle, I forgot, maybe you guys know, is going to take something like 7 minutes. Did you guys? This is a Lubavitch.
I've heard that. I don't know whose opinion. I've heard that several times quoted, but
and it makes sense now. I think it'll be quick. It'll be ripping the Band-Aid off. I think.
Well, that's the precedent that the Rebbe gave us of the world shifting into Mashiach, was the collapse of the Soviet Union and also the Berlin Wall coming down. It just happened, and it was a new reality. You woke up the next morning and there was no more Soviet Union. Obviously, there were repercussions for that, but it wasn't this massive bloody revolt with nuclear devastation. It was just it's done. So it's the same with the deep state, essentially. They're gone, and we have an infrastructure, and they're gone. Amazing.
So the infrastructure, as you were saying it, I love that's our word for this whole talk, is the Geula infrastructure. That's why I'm so drawn to the financial aspect of the awakening, because there is this invisible, I see it as a metal framework that's emerging into view of the quantum financial system that is already holding us, that is already supporting us, that we're all already abundant. And it's not an idea, it's a reality. Like I found, I can't, it's the first Telegram channel I check every day because I want to understand how this nation joined in and how the whole stellar network and the blockchain, like these big words. I was never into finance before, but when it's tied to Geula, it fascinates me because I understand that this is the mechanism. This is the infrastructure. This thing that's supporting us, so we could leave our day job, so we could have 3 horses in the stable, like whatever makes you happy.
I want a whole barn full.
A whole barn full of horses, whatever brings you those 3
Someone
things
to clean
that
it.
taught me.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you say? I missed it.
Someone to clean it.
Somebody to manage the barn. Yeah, so
Barns with horses can be quite messy.
Right, or if that's your joy, maybe that's your joy to clean up after horses. Who knows?
Doubling horse poop, yeah. Definitely.
Anything. That's what I learned. Anything can be your joy if you're in the moment. How crazy is that?
That's true. That's also true.
If
So
you're
how do
feeling
you,
the physical sensation of it, like I was making my son, he asked me, "You never make me lunch." So I got up early, I made him lunch, and he wanted like specifically like grilled chicken and broccoli and rice. And I'm like, as I'm making it, I'm doing it slowly. I'm hearing the sounds of it sizzling. As I'm chopping the broccoli, I'm like pretending I'm on the Food Network and I'm chopping like those people. I'm like, that's the
awesome.
joy. I like brought it instead of a chore and a burden. I was like enjoying the sensory experience. And you taught me this, Ani, the tonic, the the menucha, and the joy, the tranquility, and the peace. And if you have that in these things that used to be chores, you're living Geula.
Yes, exactly.
I had a similar experience a long time ago washing dishes, but I might have been in an altered state. I heard the clink of the glasses when I was moving them around, and I felt the water and the coffee were rising in the air. So I totally get what you mean.
I had an experience of that when I had my first spiritual awakening in college. I was like cutting a purple onion and I was like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I was like crying. I was not on anything, not in that moment anyways.
Amazing. Yeah.
It's the sensory that brings you there. It's the body that brings you to those moments.
I was like,
right?
God created this gorgeous, incredible thing. Oh my God. And I was like crying at like the purple, and not because of the onion. And again, I wasn't on anything in that moment. So
I know exactly what you mean. It just hits
but
you.
we have to,
Mhm.
it's incredible. I was going to say, I have to pop off.
Yeah, I think we all do. We
Yeah.
all of us have to go to work now. Anyway, I do. Gila does. Okay. Well, wow.
This was great, you guys. Thank you, Shifra. Thank you.
Any final thoughts between today and next time?
Google choices. Make Google choices.
Find pleasure. Find your joy in everyday, things that used to be hard for you to do. Be there with that action. Involve every sense of your body and let it connect you straight to God.
Okay, I'm going to throw out one that I just picked up from you guys, which is making me really think. Stop being used to more and more disaster happening, and just, don't even accept that. Just start to think that all the surprises are going to be miraculous.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember when we were talking specifically about like a specific disease that they were like threatening with, and just say, F it, that's not going to happen. Just F it, not happening.
F it.
Exactly.
Okay. See you.
Bye.
Bye.